What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Real Ones. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Aron Lomax, co-founder and managing partner at Treo Homes. Welcome to the podcast, Aron.
Trio now, not Treo Homes. We dropped the Homes.
What did I say?
You said Treo Homes. We're now Trio because we're cool and quick.
Because you're cool.
Yeah.
Oh, come on. Trio, because we're cool. Look, Aron, I've met you a few times now, and obviously this has been in the making for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad you've come out. But first of all, I just want to say congratulations
Thank
on
you.
little Spencer. I should have introduced you as father of Spencer. So, how does it feel to be a new dad?
Well, it's 20 days old now, and I don't know if you
20
can tell with the
days?
bags in the eyes, but the sleepless nights are real, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Life as I know it is no more, but it's a humbling feeling to some extent because they want for nothing. They are just there, and it's your job to keep them alive and give them everything that you can. So it's a strange feeling.
How's
But
that sort of changed your view on making money and the whole building a business?
I don't necessarily think I've had him for long enough to really start thinking this is all for him and all that sort of stuff. But it really realigns what your purpose is a little bit. It's not just I think you're quite a selfish person until you have children, and then you realize very quickly that, wow, this thing means a lot to you, you know, and it really realigns your purpose as to what you're doing this for, because ultimately it is a little bit of a selfish thing, life, right?
Yeah.
Until that point in time when you have children, and then it becomes not about you at all.
Yeah, parenting is like one of the most selfless jobs out there. So yeah, kudos, congratulations. Thought we should address that because it's only been a few days and you're already in studio, recording an episode and building the business as usual. So kudos to you for, doing that. Tell me about your story, right? What was your journey here, and what did 7-year-old Aron want to be?
I've always been a business guy. I know this is very cliche, and many people probably sit here and say the same thing, but that is the reality of it. My mum and dad were both very hard workers. My dad had his own security business, CCTV business, and my mum used to get up at 4:30 in the morning and travel to an hour and a half there and back each day. So I come from a very hard-working family. Not necessarily entrepreneurial family by any stretch of the imagination, but I always wanted for more a little bit. I started my first business when I was 14, which is just basically a reselling business, selling snapbacks back then.
What's that?
Snapbacks with baseball caps, basically. We call them
fine.
snapbacks in the UK.
Okay.
And I saw that there was a bit of a trend in America, and then they wanted it in the UK, so I managed to source them and bring them over. I used to pay my friends to help me box them up, pay them in Chinese takeaways to help us box them up. And then that was ticking along nicely. But basically, I was approaching 17, which is the legal age to drive in the UK. I'm a big car guy. I wanted to get a car that I wanted.
Was that your Bugatti outside?
I'm not that kind of car guy.
Okay.
Cars are meant to be driven. Bugattis are just show ponies. I wanted a car, and insurance was expensive. So I was like, the only way to do it really was to try and do it on my own, so to speak. My first proper big product that I sold and actually made really good margins on was a breathalyzer.
Okay.
A key ring breathalyzer, which I was buying for, I think it was about £1.80, which is like 9 dirhams. And I was selling them for just under 50 dirhams. And I couldn't sell them fast enough. It was crazy. So, and they were this big, so the packaging was much easier than the caps.
The cops?
No, just to
people just want to know.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fine. Because obviously people want to make sure they're under and it's just a little key ring that you could attach to your keys.
Right.
And that for about 6 months made me some really good money and got me my first taste of, actually, this is I can kind of do this. I actually set up a proper limited business to do it through. Start the Trend.
Okay.
Was what it was called.
That's the name of the company?
That was the name of the company
I
started, yeah. Start the Trend Ltd, yeah. I still think it might be somewhere on Company's House now, but anyway. And then, that's when I wanted to I was coming to the end of school. I already had a passion for property, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Obviously, starting selling products and stuff has got short lifespans. It's just something to do to make a little bit of money. It was never going to be a career. So then I didn't really know what to do education-wise. So I was like, I like business, but I don't know enough about it.
You know, there's something interesting that a lot of my entrepreneur friends say, it's like, what happened to you that you became an entrepreneur?
You've got to be crazy to do
it. Like, who hurt you is usually the question.
I know. I think it is just a burning desire inside some people.
Yeah.
Sometimes people think it's a fun thing to do and they're going to make loads of money doing it and all this stuff, and that's the reasoning for it. But I think it is just a want and a need to create, to design, to build, to have something for yourself. There's more to it than just the money and the finances to it. So I went to study entrepreneurship.
Okay.
That's what I went to do in university. My literal degree that I went to study was entrepreneurship. That was literally what it was, which was, I didn't know what I wanted to do. As soon as I saw that, I was like, boom, that's what I wanted to do. And then I lasted 6 months and dropped out because I'm sat there and I'm thinking to myself, and this was in 2008, by the way, or around that sort of time. So it was economically and business-wise, there was a lot to learn about. It was a good time to be in education, going through that sort of thing. Yep. But I'm learning about starting businesses. And I'm thinking to myself, 4 years. I'm like, these people who are teaching haven't really done anything. Yep. Who are these? Are these people qualified to do this? And it was a lot about just facets of it that I was like, this is not what it says on the tin. So I was like, the only way to do it is to do it. So then I was like, university's not for me. This is just the course. I'm not going to get anything out of it. I'm going to go into debt, do all these things, didn't get anything out of it. So then I was like, right, I want to be in property. That is ultimately where I want to be. It's what I've always been interested in.
Just like that.
I've always wanted that anyway, but there's no money in property unless you own property. There's so much space in the real estate space, makes the most millionaires on earth, right? But there's no money in it unless you own the assets. Every other facet in it, financing it, there's money in it. But the actual, unless you hire up the tree, there's no money in it. So I was like, let's just go in at the ground level, grassroots. So then I dropped out of university. I got a full-time job at an estate agent and a local estate agents that were absolutely awesome, really good to work for. And I did that for 2 years and really understood. You're working with investors. You're working with people who are buying and selling. You're working with some people who have got massive portfolios, and you really understand. You learn a lot. You make no money. I used to make 100 dirhams per sale. 100 dirhams per sale.
Gotcha.
So there's literally no money in it. And when you sell a house, it gets pooled across the whole office and everyone gets 100 dirhams. So it's like, I'm on minimum wage and making that, and I'm like, there's just no money in it. So in a typical wet Monday afternoon in the UK, sat in my office looking out the window, I'm like, there's more to life than this. I'm like, I've got a passion to move, to do something more. So I was like, where can I do what I like to do, which is sell houses in the property space, and actually make money doing it? So I'm sure there's many people in that situation that come into our industry specifically. And I was like, the US, Australia, UAE, and I think at Dubai. At that point in time, this is 12 years ago now. It's not what it is today. Yeah. So I was like, the barriers to entry, you needed licenses and a lot of different stuff, and visas for Australia and America seemed a little bit more tricky. And I'm 19 at this point, so I'm young, really young. Yeah. And I'm like, this is just right. So within 3 weeks of that Monday, me coming up with the idea to do something more, I'm on the plane to Dubai.
That's
so they didn't even give it some time, and everyone's advising you that this is crazy and what you're doing and all the rest of it. And I was like, you know what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'll come back. I'll have learned something. I can go back, sit in the same desk and do exactly what I was doing. So there's always that fallback, which is there. So then I took the jump, and then I moved, and then I was like, wow, this is nothing like anyone says it is. As in the country, I knew nobody. Never heard anything about that.
What do you mean by that?
I'm used to what the industry was like in the UK, which is so old-fashioned, by the way. Yeah. Like, the level of disruption that can take place as to what happens out here visitor is insane. But I'm sure we'll get to that in a bit. But I come out here and I was like, this is crazy. Everyone in the UK has got their own retrospective department, and everyone looks after this. These people answer the initial phone call. These people arrange the viewings. These people do the follow-ups. The vendors do their own viewings. So there's different people doing different jobs, basically. No one does a 360 process, basically. Then you come out here and it's like, right, because you'd have a valuer that would get the properties on. Yeah. Then you'd have an admin that would answer all the inquiries and qualify the leads. Then you'd have a viewer, which was what my role was to start with, which would literally just take the keys and stand outside and not do anything, not sell the house in any capacity. Then the sales negotiator would receive the offer and relay it back to the vendor. Yeah. And it's like, there's no continuity of service. It's just, but that was all I knew. I didn't realize there was a different way of doing it. And then I land in Dubai and they're like, right, there's a spreadsheet. You're doing the springs. I didn't drive, didn't have a car. So I'm walking around the springs in God knows what heat, just walking around the springs for hours on end trying to make heads or tails of what it is that I'm supposed to be doing here.
And how do you get your first sort of kill?
Well, from there, then I stayed in leasing for a year, and I wasn't a very good leasing broker. And I was ready to go home. I was done. I wasn't making money. I was struggling. But I always wanted to go into sales, but I never really had the money to go into sales. I'm sure there's thousands of leasing brokers in this exact same situation. And then I was like, you know what, Hail Mary. Come back from Christmas one time, and it was January, and I was like, I'm going into sales. I'm dropping everything leasing. I'm going full send into sales because I knew I was good at the job. And in the February, I sold 4 houses.
Wow.
So I literally just dropped it all in. I literally probably had 6 weeks, and that was it. I was gone. I was on the plane home. 4 sales I did in that first month, and I was like, this is it. You know, and then you get paid 200,000 dirhams in a single month, and it's like, wow, I didn't earn that in the last
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then it's like, okay, I can do this. And then from there, it was just, it gave me that. I had the confidence and the belief that I was good enough to do it. And then it just gave me that, it reaffirmed that I was like, okay, you were dancing in the wrong leagues here. You know, you needed to be, you know, what you were designed to do, so to speak. So then it just snowballed from there. And then we did really well as a broker in the sales side of things.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, I think there's a lot of moments where you went, okay, this is not right for me. And then let's say a couple of years later, again, this is not right for me. And then notably speaking, dropping out and then also leaving the UK and then me leaving the whole leasing thing behind and then going into sales. All 3 of those moments were basically you saying, no, but then I could do better. And like that search
releasing your potential. You know it's there, but you just got to figure out your skill set's better suited to do something else.
So what do you think, if you're speaking to people who are in that same position today,
which is probably many of your viewers are in the exact same situation.
Yeah. And like, it could be specifically to the leasing example, but also in general in that constant pursuit of greatness / constant pursuit of knowing that I can do I'm meant for more. What would your advice be?
I mean, you should always do it. You know, everyone says, shoot for the stars, do all this. And then if you fail, you fail. But at the end of the day, you have to do it within the rough confines of what you have your beliefs to be. I'm not trying to clip anyone's wings by saying that. But for instance, you know, I couldn't go and start an AI company, for instance, right? Like, you have to know that you have at least 30-40% of it. And then the rest of it, you can figure out. People waiting for that 100% is never going to happen. But you need to have you need to be self-reflective enough to understand what your capabilities are and where your skill sets are best applied. Yeah. The rest of it you can figure out, right? Mm. But some people are a little bit not naive in their own abilities or what their skill sets really are. They're doing the wrong thing for them. You know, everyone's got skill sets. Everybody. They've just got to realize what they are and apply them in the correct way.
I think if the right person's listening to that will hit home because it resonates with me quite a lot. Like, I mean, I didn't grow up saying AI, but 30-40% figured out. Now the question is, how do you accelerate the 60%
Correct.
For the?
And that is the ultimate. That's the ultimate.
Question. Yeah. So how do you accelerate? How did you accelerate the 60% that you had to?
I mean, when it comes to business, right?
Yeah.
I don't actually think you can ever have that 100%. When you're building a business, you're building a team, you're building an ecosystem, right? And you need to. This is why being self-aware is unfathomably important. Your co-founders are very, very important in this. What skill sets do you all have as a collective, and what skill sets do you need to hire in? And if you are naive or you are living in the clouds and you think you are very good at this, this is a big trait of founders in general. They hire in the best talent and then they don't listen to them. You know, which is ridiculous, right? So you realize what you are, which is that 34% that you are very good at, right? Yeah. And that is probably vision. It's probably understanding. It's probably connecting the dots between the departments, and then trust the people that know better than you at the retrospective thing, right? And that is once you understand that and you realize where your weaknesses are, then you can hire in and fill those gaps. And once you realize when you can sit in a room and have, okay, I want to do this. And then you've got this person that connects every dot of that 60%. It's there around you. Building that is the hard part.
How do you go from working in the business to on the business?
That was tough for us. And you know what? This is physical office presence and physical office setup is massive for this. When we were in our old office, we were sat on the floor. We were sat on the sales floor. And that means you are working in the business. You are dealing with the day-to-day, not mundane tasks, because people need help and this and that, and it comes to you. But the reality is when even if you have the organizational structure and the decision-making tree perfectly designed, if you are sat right next to them, they are going to ask you as opposed to the decision-making tree, right? The line manager, so to speak. So the biggest change for us by Country Mile, which has only happened in the last 3 months, was taking ourselves off the floor completely and just having everyone in their respective departments and us having our own space has been unfathomably transformative because you are always working on the business as opposed to in the business. Gotcha. And that's a mindset shift as well as a physical shift within the office. But honestly speaking, if you want to work on the business, not in the business, remove yourself from it.
No.
As in, remove yourself from the physicalities of it. And then you will realize that you are freeing up 2-3 hours of headspace that you would be dealing with stuff that you do not need to be dealing with. And there are structures in place to deal with. And then that 2 or 3 hours a day can be focused on the things that are really important on the business.
So there is a period of time that you just need to work in the business so
of
that
course.
you can get it to a meaningful sort of state.
And if you don't understand how the inner workings of every single person's job roles and what every single person does, it becomes inefficient. You have to work in the business for a good period of time. I mean, when you're in the startup mode, you are in the business. You are in the business, on the business. You are everything, right?
Yeah.
And then once it gets to a certain size and a certain scale, then you need to step back. You have everything in place, and you need to work on the things that are important. And that is just throwing gas on the fire, right? That's when it really starts taking its own legs and moving in its own direction with your vision and your sort of
absolutely
leadership, guidership.
And I think, co-founders are a big part of that, right? How do you pick the right co-founder is like the most obvious question in the world, but what's sort of the hardest conflict you've had to deal with your co-founders on, and how do you get past that?
I mean, when you first start a business, right, if you're starting a business with someone who's already started multiple businesses before, that's easier because everyone will have gone through that process and is very self-aware about what each day are each bringing to the party. I'm responsible for this, I'm responsible for this, I'm responsible for this. When you start with 3 founders who've never really started any meaningful business before, then you're going through that journey together. You don't know what each of us good at. I didn't know what I was good at. Sammy didn't know what he was good at. Jake didn't know what he was good at. And then very quickly, over 1 or 2 years of doing business together, you realize that, you take a look back and you think, you're doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And you're actually all very good at it. And then it's a conversation again. It's like, right, let's split this up. You do this, you do this. I'll deal with everything in this space and the decisions are mine. Like, so that we don't have to have conversations about it. Everything within reason in this space is yours, and this is yours, and this is yours. And then that, again, you're basically just in those retrospective sections, and then you realize what each other's skill sets is, and you lean into it big time. And that is how we sort of divided it up. Some companies do it differently. They want everyone to make all the decisions, and I think it makes it a bit inefficient. And at the end of the day, as we said, their skill set is this. So let them run at it, right? So that is how it kind of formed with us, is that we was just a pure chance, by pure fate, if you will, that each of us were very, very good and talented at our respective departments, and that was that is the opinion why I think Treo has done as well as it has, is because of the skill sets of each of us individually, us identifying those skill sets and leaning into them. Yeah.
Now you said something quite interesting at the start, which I think was a subtle hint to everyone, but is Treo going to get into development? Is that what because you're like, the most important, property people only make money when you own the asset. Is something that you said. So is that something that you're looking to do?
Yeah, listen, never say never. That's always been the ultimate goal for us.
Fair enough.
That has always been the ultimate goal for us. We all own property. We all renovate property. We all like being in that space in a personal capacity. But the ultimate aim for us which is really aligned with the new office, is we have some really cool things for that purpose specifically, to partner with developers and build out experience centers and build out show apartments in our own 360 space. So that is something that we are not there yet.
No.
But it's always been it's one of those things that's been in the roadmap that just keeps getting kicked down the road a little bit. But I know when the time is right and the right opportunity comes along that we will be ready for it.
Amazing. And we've spoken a lot about leadership and entrepreneurship and stuff like that, actually more than I would typically do, just because it was interesting. And I think it's interesting to hear your perspective on Dubai real estate during the war, right? Like, I saw your video and actually went and had 3 other meetings after that and said, like, hey, this is what Aron said, like, on his little, which was basically something along the lines of, there have been 25 different wars over the last so many years. Yep. What was that whole stat, and how have you sort of seen it play out since, now that it's all kind of...
Listen, that video was I actually pitched that to the company. So on the monthly meeting, I'll go through every single possible objection that I see that the guys will face. I handle those objections for them. So that was just a very small snippet of I'd love for you to be flying the wall in our monthly meetings, because most monthly meetings are talking about figures and KPIs, and that is 10% of what we talk about. Yeah. But mine is those objections and education, right? So most people are flying dark when a situation like that happens. And it happens all the time here, right? These are big objections that put big roadblocks. COVID, we're in a region where these things happen. Yeah. So my job is to sit down and really figure out what is the best objection for this. How do we make people understand this? Because what happens is, when something like that happens, every single person in the office comes to me and is like, Aron, are we safe? Or is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? And I'm like, listen, when you've been here for a reasonable amount of time, this is nothing new. This has happened this will happen again, and people will get nervous about it in the market. And then what people will realize is that ultimately Dubai always stays politically neutral on any aspect of whatever it happens. And in most cases, it's a net benefit. Ultimately, because of Dubai's stance on everything, it always comes out positive. It's just experience. It's just time knowing how to handle these situations, because they are sensitive topics. But the reality is that side of things is understanding how these things will affect the economy, will affect the market, is what I see as one of my main job roles, is educating the guys on how best to handle the objections that will come their way.
Yeah, I mean, objection handling is like half the job. So like, I think it's really valuable to have at the top of the company, and creating that clarity across the board is really, really important. I appreciate you sharing the whole sort of thinking process behind that as well. Now, I was just thinking about this earlier this morning, because I never have to really put myself in the shoes of, I have 6 weeks runway and I need to close 4 deals. I've never had to really do that. But I was thinking, what if I did have to do that? What do I need at my disposal? And what would I be doing differently to everybody else? Everyone's doing the social media posting. Everyone's talking about, sharing that whatever article from whatever big publisher that everyone else is sharing on any given day. And like, oh, here's the construction update on this. Here's the latest. Yeah, I'm not going to name names, but that's kind of the typical approach. And I was just thinking, what would I do differently? If you were starting out today as a real estate agent, what would you do differently, and what would you over-index on?
You know what? I think there's a massive opportunity for brokers coming into the market right now, in the sense that the one thing that new agents and people that are in that situation where you have, okay, so starting out in the industry, right, is much like starting a business. You start up capital, you need to do X, Y, and Z. It's exactly the same. Actually, we tell people, we train people, you're essentially under the guise and leadership and mentorship of us, but you have to take ownership of your own business, your own things, right? So ultimately, they have a finite period of time to set up and get the business at a break-even point. Right, which is the ultimate first step in the business. Let's break even, then we can move on from there. And that is the same thing. So, but the one thing that people in that situation have is that back against the wall mentality, where you outwork everyone. And the reality is that even brokers that have been in the market for many, many long time, like right now, summer, all the best brokers in the market, they're in Mykonos, they're on holiday, they're doing all these things, right? And rightly so. They've earned their money, they've done extremely well. But do you think that these people that are just starting are traveling to Ibiza and Spain and Miami and all these places? No, they're not. They are outworking the people that are there. So there's a constant cycle of people getting complacent and new brokers coming into the market and willing to outwork them. So that mindset that you've had, that you said that yourself that you've never been in, is a dangerous place to be in. Is a dangerous place to be for more experienced agents in the market, because you will get outworked, and your listings will go, your relationships will suffer throughout this time, because the nature of the beast, we can't have time off as agents. You really can't. So that hunger, that desire, that passion of new agents coming into the market is the lifeblood of keeping this industry moving forward at the pace that it is.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you're at 7,800 brokerages, let's say now in Dubai, roughly, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I think we're more than that, but the vast majority of the trade licenses, let's be honest, are a couple of man bands. So the reality of the situation is there's probably 250 brokerages operating as a proper brokerage with employees and different things, not just a trade license and a couple of people. But yeah, there's a lot of competition.
A lot of competition. And how do you kind of stand out now, right? Like, I know that, and this is something we've spoken about before as well, the Treo CRM is world-class and state-of-the-art, so Aron refused to take a look at mine. No, but in general, tell us a little bit more about how you've sort of maintained that edge, especially things that you're doing around technology. What I'm really curious about, of course, no promises can be made on whether that advantage lasts after the podcast, but
yeah, so we've I'm going to say coming out of COVID times, when it was a little bit slower, etc., we really I believed at that point in time, and I still believe to this day, except from us, that every company is exactly the same, with a different skin on top. A different brand on top, a shiny this, a shiny that. I'm going to be honest, I saw over the last few months specifically just how further ahead we are than everybody else when it comes to this stuff. It blew my mind, because we've now started sitting with people from other companies, and they're like, holy crap, like, what you guys have done is insane. We're like, we know, but we've suffered with branding, we've suffered with recruitment side of things. We focused on operational excellence, like getting the systems, the processes internally to an unfathomable level at the detriment of other aspects of our business. And the other aspects of the business, i.e. the branding and the recruitment side of things, is where these other companies excelled. But now we're at the point where we have this baseline that they just categorically do not have. So in about 2020, we were like, right, there's a better way to do this. There has to be a better way of doing it. It's messy, it's scrappy. If your company is providing you an Excel spreadsheet of owners in a community, you're at the wrong company. I will personally sit with you and show you how it can be done. And I am talking about top 5 companies. Every single one of them, you will be given a spreadsheet of names, phone numbers, email addresses, and told, go call that.
What should it be?
And ours is, there's no spreadsheets in our business.
Yeah.
There is no spreadsheets in our business. If you are looking at your computer right now and you're looking at a spreadsheet, come and sit with me and I will blow your mind as to how efficient and well it can be done. So we designed a CRM from scratch, basically, right? So we wanted to eradicate cold calls or minimize them as much as humanly possible. And we wanted to make it as efficient as possible. We wanted to do as much for the agent as we possibly could, which at this moment in time is a little bit of a detriment because they don't really realize just how easy they've got it on our system. So we've basically got the system to a point now where when they log in the morning, they will be told every single property that is coming available in the next 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, even down to the fact that they've got a client that's looking for a Lakeview 3M on this plot size. Boom, this property is then coming at this property is coming available in the next 30 days. It's all linked. We've got 6 different APIs running into it, and the products that we can build off the back of this is where we go from here is incredible. Like, we've mapped out the address system of Dubai ourselves, 420,000 unique addresses, and the system just cleans itself. Like, the system is just constantly the data is just getting better and better and better. Because we mapped out all of the address systems, we linked that this owner also owns all of these other properties. The data cleans itself like by thousands of records a day. So, if you are a company where you're looking at a spreadsheet, that company has no idea that they've probably got the correct owner's information in their ecosystem that they don't know about. They have no idea. They might know that they might have an owner that owns a property in an international city that they don't work in this area, and that is the correct phone number for that owner, okay? And you have a buyer for that property. But the owner in the community that you need him is the wrong number. But because their system doesn't tell them that, they're never going to know that. Unless they manually search 50,000 spreadsheets, they're never going to be able to do that. Our system does it itself. Is incredible.
I think your recruitment will go through the roof after this episode. Shit you. No, but we've had this conversation briefly before as well. What did you see was lacking in regional CRM providers that you think could be better / why you didn't go with any?
I mean, they all come from a different angle, right? And ultimately, the CRM itself is one aspect of it. It's the data that goes into it, right? If you've not set up, like, you could create the best CRM in the world, but if there's nothing on it, it doesn't do anything, right? It can't do anything. So they were just out the box copy paste jobs. They're just XML feeds. Most people they use it as a small lead management tool, and that is it. Right? But they can do so much more. And our industry was lacking in that front because it's a very messy industry and loads of data and different things and that. And I'll be honest, no company really needed to do it. Yeah. There was no requirement to do it. This is the way it's always been done. Let's keep it. So we wanted to. We didn't set out to disrupt it by any stretch of the imagination. We just set out we wanted operationally to make it as smooth and as easy as possible, and have a bit of a USP over the other companies that our data and our system is going to make you twice the amount of money as it is anywhere else. So it was a competitive advantage for us to be able to do that. But the CRMs just aren't set up for this region, is the reality of it. Every other real estate market on earth is pretty much a mom and pop shop where someone sits there on the high street, someone walks in, offers them a unit, and that is it. And that is the way of the world. Not just the way of the UK. It's typically, some US models are a little bit more go-getter, but the reality of the situation is most of the high street estate agents that people walk through the front door offer them this. So there's no real need for really good data and outreach purposes. Whereas here it's very different, So it's up to the agents themselves to a lot of extent to go and generate the listings, which is unique to this market. So the CRM needs to be able to be catered towards that aspect of it. It's not just managing the listing; it's managing the outreach, which is the bigger part of what we do. Most real estate CRMs only manage the listing side of things, right? And the buyers that come in from those listings, right? But the reality is the bigger part of our job is not that side of it. It's the how do you get the listings in the first place? That was the section of the CRM CRM that we focused on, whereas everyone else is focusing on this bit, right? How do we manage the leads better, which is a vital part of the lead management side of it. But a lot of CRMs do lead management fairly well. So that side of it is fine. But the unique part of it here is you need to go get those owners. The CRM needs to be catered and designed from the ground up to do that. Because ultimately, the more listings that you take on, the more listings that you sell. It's the start of the cycle. You can't, without having a listing, you can't generate buyers. Without having buyers, you can't generate offers. Without generating offers, you can't close any deals. It's the start of the conveyor belt. So that is the section of it that we decided to focus on most heavily.
Just switching gears a little bit, tell me about sort of the hardest time in your life and how you overcame it.
Oh, deep. You know, the last year's been pretty tough in certain aspects. My mum went through some things. Obviously, I've had a child, etc. But I've been pretty fortunate in the sense that I've been lucky that everyone's reasonably healthy. I've not been through anything, you know, crazily traumatic. So on that side of it, I'd be unauthentic if I sat here and said, I've been through some all hardships. And all that would be very unauthentic of me. But honestly, genuinely in life, in genuine life, I've been very lucky to have amazing friends, to be very fulfilled on a personal level. And that side of things, I can't really sit here and tell you, I've been through some real hard times and this and this. That's not, because that ultimately is not necessarily the case. But starting a business, going through COVID, business hardships, every day is a hardship. Yeah. You know, it's tough scaling a business when we started the business with 100,000 dirhams, right?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you sort of went straight to the health of the people that you care about, where as soon as you said, what's the hardest thing you've been through, you jumped straight to the health of the loved ones around you. Yeah. I think that just signals the sort of order of thinking kind of a thing, right? Like, yes, everyone has money problems, everyone has business problems, everyone has all of these things, but the thing that I value is this, and, you know, it's okay.
Exactly. You know. So everything else is everything else is the game of life, right? Those things is not the game of life. They're the real important factors. Yeah. Friends, family, but then the business side of things, you know, business is tough. Yeah. You know, business is really tough. Trying to put all your ideas and get it together and do what you want to do in a reasonable time frame. Like, people have no idea just how hard it is to grow and scale a business. It is very difficult, and it is extremely, extremely tough. And you need to be extremely strong-willed because it will test you all of the time. Yeah. It really will. Like, people always talk about the glamorous side of it, but the reality of starting a business and growing a business is very, very hard. And it's not for the faint-hearted. You need to be absolutely relentless. You need to face the adversity that it brings, because you'll think, oh shit, I can't do this. I'm not qualified for this. I'm not capable of this, especially in the early days when you're early 20s, or especially if you're a young founder, because you've got no money, you've got no experience. No. And you're doing both, right? At least if you start a business a little bit later in life, you've got a bit more experience. You might potentially have a little bit more money as well. Yeah. But especially as young founders, it is really tough because you're constantly doubting yourself. Am I able to do this? You have massive imposter syndrome, and it really is a little bit a case of fake it till you make it. But from that experience of faking it till you make it, to some extent, comes genuine experience, authentic, actual business life experience, and then confidence arises from the experience that you've had. So the start out phase of a business is tough. Brutal. Yeah, but you've got to live, you've got to run your business. Like, we're in year 8 now, and you have to.
How old were you when you started?
21.
And what do you think you've learned in that? Like, what's the one biggest sort of lesson that you've had in those 8 years?
I'm 30. I've just turned 30. Like, literally, I want to go.
Dude.
I know, but you know, I feel like a 60-year-old man with the life things that you've gone, you know, and you do miss out on a lot of things on the back of that. But the reality is, where the level of experience and knowledge that I've had by the age of 30 is what most people could only dream of, right? So it's. I don't think if I was to do it again, I would have probably waited a few more years, definitely. But when you realize that that's just delaying the process 2 years further down the line, but you probably could have bypassed that with 2 years more of experience. But hey, you know, it's all retrospective thinking. But the reality is, it's, you know, if you've never started a business before and you are starting a business, it's very hard, because I knew how to sell a house. I did not know how to run a business. And that is ultimately the same thing as everything. I think if someone has run a business in a certain sector, you could run a business in another sector. If you're good at business, you can run business in any sector. Absolutely. Whereas just because you're good in that sector, you're a good real estate agent, does not mean you're a good business owner. The two are not linked in any capacity.
Yeah.
Because you ultimately know how to sell a house. You don't know how to manage people. You don't know how to do finances. You don't know how to do marketing. You don't know how to hire. You don't know how to brand. You don't know how to position yourself. Like, none of those things are in that. So just because you're successful in your retrospective industry does not mean you'll be able to start a business in that retrospective industry. Whereas if you've started a successful business in one industry, chances are you can apply what you've learned to the other industry, and you can, as I say, founder with someone who knows that industry well, or hire in talent who are very good in that industry. But business is a skill set in its own right. And the industry is a skill set in its own right. And people confuse the two all of the time.
Absolutely. I think all of this is just hitting home with me like a lot. I think one of our best investors told me, Joel, I think you could, like, because we were initially in the social media content creator space, and building a crypto platform for that space. And then we pivoted into real estate. And one of our investors told me, well, 12 months ago, when none of this was obvious that we were going to do well and like crush it in the market, whatever, he was just like, you could kill it in the yachting business if you wanted to do it, right? Like, and it's so valid because, again, the approach is speak to industry veterans, understand the best, bridge that gap very quickly, and then just, move.
You did that well because when you pivoted into real estate, you sat with the right people.
Yeah.
You know? And I can tell from my first meeting with you, you're so interested in my outlook and the opinion of what a CRM can be and how these different use cases for it. And, you're having meetings for the sake of having meetings, not really, you just learning. I don't know this industry. Let's go speak to people that do. And that's incredibly important.
Okay, I'm happy to put my hands up and say, I don't know, like, kind of a thing. I think that's the biggest, for me, it's just the humility and also willingness to learn and being able to say, I don't know something.
But that's why being self-aware of that fact is unfathomably important. The arrogance of thinking you know everything as a founder is detrimental.
Absolutely not. I mean, like, look, I have my own take on how PropTechs in this region really aren't operating like pure software companies or
chatbots and automations. There's nothing.
Yeah. But I mean, well, if they did that better, that would be quite interesting. But most of them are becoming real estate companies, which is the tricky part about the PropTech space. So it's like VC backed, tech enabled,
or just becoming brokerages,
which is
they put this shiny tech skin on it, and they're not
crazy, which is crazy. Like for me, it's a bit challenging, right? Because I want to build a global decacorn outcome. I know why these technology companies are, putting the shiny skin on and doing brokerage, because, well, VCs in this region don't yet have the risk appetite to fund something that's exponentially innovative, right? They fund cash flow. If you have $1 million in revenue, you get $1 million in funding. That's just how it works out here. And whereas in the US, it's like, if you have $0 in revenue, but you have an exponentially insane idea that could change the face of an industry, people are willing to take a bet.
Yeah.
I think I get why the incentives are aligned in a certain way and why they're doing these things to keep the lights on and all of this kind of stuff. So respect on that side. But at the same time, I think we're yet to see really innovative prop tech companies come out of, right here and then go all over the world, right? And I think it's failed innovation-wise from the other way as well, from the US to here as well. There's not really been that much that's been adopted, but
I think it's because the technology is moving forward so fast. The use cases are changing so fast. Like,
absolutely.
It's important. If you stop and say, okay, let's build this, in 6 months' time, the technology behind it is too old. So it's very difficult right now.
Yeah.
And then you've got Property Finder, Bayou, who both technically PropTech's done extremely, extremely well. But aside from those two, you're right. Like, there's loads of people saying they're doing this, saying they're doing that. And as far as I can see, which you obviously know the space more than me, I'm like, what, this isn't anything. This isn't anything
our business at all.
Yeah, you can put a shiny skin on it, but it's exactly the same as everything else.
Yeah. I think very interesting. I mean, PF and Bayou obviously changing the classified sort of business, basically digitizing that, which is a huge market in its own right. Very curious to see what the sub tier sort of startups look like as a trickle down of those two becoming very successful and having big exit events, liquidity events, which will pour into the region, which will end up benefiting all of us, I think. Well, my last question to you, which I always ask every guest, is what advice would you give your 21-year-old self?
Enjoy the ride. It's not necessarily about the destination. We've had a real pinch me moment lately with the new office. It is unbelievable. And if I spoke to my 21-year self today, right now, is a good time to do this podcast because over the last 2-3 months, it's really been pinch me moments consistently. Last week, I sat with 4 or 5 very experienced brokers from the top companies, and we showed them the office. We showed them our setup, and they've been in the industry for a very long time, and they're like, Aaron, how does no one know about this? How does no one know that you're doing this? And the people that are in the business have only ever known that. So they don't really realize just how special it really is. And then when you get people come from other top 5 brokerages come in and say, wow, you've like, this office is insane. It's like nothing else. The setup's insane. The system's insane. Like, it's like, even for me, I was like, whoa, like, it's because we've never really gone into pushed it out, and it's been really like worth it moments, pinch me moments. So you never really know what you set out to achieve when you set up a business. You say you want to do X, Y, Z, and exit and raise money and do all these things, or whatever. But for us, it was a love of the process, and let's just see how far we can take this. And I have no intention of being the biggest real estate company, and that's probably what you want me to say. I want to be the best. I want operational excellence. I want to be the best. I want to be the best place to work. I want to be the best person to work for. I want to create the systems and the processes that make their life a lot easier. And I do not want to be the biggest. I just want to be the best.
Yeah. And I wasn't going to ask this, but then I feel like it's fitting. Baby Spencer is watching this episode and probably not comprehending most of it. But at some point, he will. What would you like to say to him?
Choose your own path. You're not going to get pushed by me in which way that you want to go. And life is a roller coaster. Enjoy it. But if you want to start out in business, don't.
That's what every person who doesn't want everyone else to get rich says, guys. Go start your business, break your legs, and then find out yourself.
Exactly.
It's going to be horrible.
Yeah, I didn't want to be that person that's like, go to university, go be a doctor, go be an accountant. But I'm already, even 20 days in, I'm like, maybe that's not a bad route for him.
This thing is brutal on the other side. No, but that's awesome. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for making the time. And it's been such a pleasure to chat and really resonate with a lot of the stories that you had to share as well, and can see it translate into our own journey as we get to that sort of inflection point, and like which is the rationale behind the whole questions on working in the business versus on the business, etc. But yeah, appreciate you making the time, and I hope everyone enjoyed this episode of The Real Ones. Go and work with Treo Homes. They've got some interesting technology, and then everyone else go and work with all of the other brokerages that we're working with, because well, to be honest, they're going to be maybe more technological excellence, like whatever you want to call it. We're bringing that to the market, and can't wait to see that race heat up. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks very much, Joel. Thanks for having me.
Amazing.